Well, there's a new trend going on in the gun world and unlikely foes that are actually looking to remove and take away your firearms. That's what we're going to look at today, as this story kind of caught my attention that a pastor up in Michigan was running a gun buyback program. So I wanted to look at the effectiveness of that program, and of course I'm going to give you my opinion on that. But also, when it comes to religion, should Christians be carrying firearms at all, really? That may be a question that we need to answer as well. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. And of course, I want to hear your opinion. Whether you agree, disagree, let me know what you think down below. Let's go and jump right in. So Reverend Chris Yaw at St. David's Episcopal Church has actually been running these gun buyback programs, and to them, it's been a huge success. Said the first one, they had $5,000 worth of gift cards and they ran out in, I don't know, 20 minutes. Now, he's having an interview with this lady from The Daily Show, and I gotta be honest with you, I love good comedy, but a lot of these people are just not funny anymore. And this is kind of like a side quest in this whole conversation, but there used to be a lot of funny political kind of jokes and stuff like that that people would throw around, right? And everybody would laugh.
I'll tell you who would be a loser on any team, that Sasquatch Rosie O'Donnell. Really, Jughead? Because I'm at 43 and you're at 3. Jeb, you're a nice guy, but you're a lightweight, and I know for a fact that you pee sitting down.
But now there's a clear-cut mission to this video, and the humor just does not come through. Not for me at all. I don't find this bit funny. Actually, I didn't find any of it funny. You know, it's like, oh, you're cussing in church. Wow, it's funny to some. I don't know.
There's no good way to keep track of how many there are. From 2016 to 2021, there was over 1,000% increase in ghost guns.
Holy 1,000%? That's like 4 ghost guns for every ghost.
Now, these gun buyback programs are run all across the United States. It's not just in Michigan. New York had a big one, I think, last year in 2023. In over 2 decades, according to some, they've been able to get like 10,000 firearms. So generally speaking, actually there was one in South Carolina too that I saw, in this pastor at this church, this lady was like, yeah, we got 20 guns, and if I would have got 10, I would have been stoked about it, or whatever she said. You know, so generally they're on a local level, and it's a very small amount of guns. I mean, to keep that in perspective, let's say a gun buyback program is able to get 200 guns in one day. There are 47,000 guns sold per day in the United States, roughly around 1.4 million in a month. And the statistics show probably what you're thinking, like, dude, this isn't making any kind of a difference to any of the crime and violence rates out there. It's almost more of just a moral tug to get some that have, you know, granddaddy's old shotgun, or, you know, a broken gun that they're never going to use, to kind of say, hey, I'm going to, you know, do something that's for the good of others. And of course, you know, I want something in return for that thing, but I'm definitely helping out my community, when at the end of the day, they're not really doing anything. Actually, they found that a lot of these gun buyback programs, that most of the people that come in are old. So they're not really the type of people that are going to be committing crimes. Or you'll have people that bring in like broken guns, right? They can't be used anyways. And let's just be honest, like we've talked about before, not only are law-abiding gun owners buying a bunch of guns, which is fantastic, but on the flip side of that, criminals ain't going to your local buyback program in order to get a few $100s, or maybe they are, because there's no questions asked when they actually do this. So they could actually, in return, be supporting the same crimes that they're hoping to prevent, right? If you tell somebody that has a criminal conviction and they have a broken gun, that, hey, no questions asked. They turn that gun in, they get a couple $100s. If it's a Target gift card, they can easily sell that, and then they get money in return to buy a better weapon. Maybe. You know, if there's no real difference being made, then why are they doing it? Maybe they do think they're having some kind of an impact, even though the statistics don't really show that, or they're doing it to posture a little bit to make their own selves feel better. One part of this segment actually talked about frames and receivers. It's actually maybe the only part in the segment I can agree with, because the ATF definitions of frames and receivers and what is a gun, what is a rifle, what is a pistol. I agree. All that should be eliminated. All of those definitions should be taken off the books. What they're trying to get at, though, is some of these places, like I guess gun busters, will take the gun, they will destroy what the ATF has said is technically the firearm, and then take the other parts and sell them off. Well, guess what? Those other parts, according to the ATF, according to the dumb rules of the ATF, are not a firearm. So if they're taking your guns in for free, they're running their machines, they're destroying what the firearm is, recycling the metal, and then selling the other parts off that they can, well, they are a business, right? So that's how they're going to make their money. So they're like, oh my God, they're selling these ghost guns. It's just a blanket term, basically, to cover what could be a set of grips for a 1911. That's some of the ridiculous things that they're considering ghost guns.
Turns out they were using the pulverizer more for evil than good. Doing only partial destruction means that the guns can be born again, and not in the Jesus-y way.
And when you hear gun buyback, to a lot of people that are in the gun community, that believe in the Second Amendment, the first thing we think about is Australia, right? They did a mandatory buyback in 1996. By the way, America, we have been doing this since the 60s as far as gun buyback. So it's nothing new here either, but that was actually a mandatory buyback in Australia. And that is kind of touted as one of the great accomplishments of the Australian government. And that essentially is what a lot of the politicians here would love to do. Beto O'Rourke actually proved that when he was running for president. Talk about the mandatory assault weapons buyback program. With that mandatory assault weapons buyback program, by the way, let's say they were able to successfully pull that off. Never going to happen. I'm calling it. Never going to happen. But if it did, do you know how much of a difference it would make to crime in the United States? Basically nothing, because less than 3% of the crimes in the United States have any kind of rifle, not just ARs, not just AKs, not just the scary ones that the media likes to bring up, but all rifles. Less than 3% of crimes are used with those guns. It would practically make zero impact. But what about Christians actually having guns, right? Should we be carrying guns, right? Jesus did teach that you should be kind to one another. And sometimes you even have to turn the other cheek. And, I'm no theologist by any means, but from my understanding, he certainly doesn't want us going around harming each other. But I also can't believe that the same God would want us being victims to criminals and to the physical evil entities in this world. And a lot of evil actually is inside a lot of people. So given the choice and what I know about the Bible and Christianity, would God want us to turn the other cheek if a bunch of people are about to lose their life, or for you to pull out your firearm, your concealed carry, or whatever it is, and be able to protect all of those lives? I will never be convinced that God would want us to just lay down and not be able to do anything and have all those lives taken.
They have no fear. God is here, but we got 2 more members that have joined, Smith and Wesson.
And then there's other verses where Jesus is being arrested and Peter pulls out his sword, right? And Jesus tells Peter, those who live by the sword die by the sword. The problem there, in my opinion, is that Jesus had a mission to fulfill. It wasn't the fact that he didn't want to live. It was the fact he knew he had to end up on that cross to fulfill his mission. And so I believe that's a big reason why Jesus told him that in that instance. Because Jesus is the same one that said, if you do not have a sword, sell your cloak in order to buy one. Self-protection is a part of the Bible. I even think Jesus told his disciples to have protection for themselves. And so there are a lot of examples where I believe that Christians should carry firearms. And there, in my opinion, there is no contradiction with your faith, nor is there anything that points that Christians having firearms is some kind of bad thing. That's just my opinion, though. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold 'em down.